Have you ever found yourself caught in a loop of endless thoughts, questioning every decision, analyzing every possibility, and doubting yourself at every step? Overthinking is a mental trap that can leave us feeling paralyzed, anxious, and disconnected from the present moment. In Buddhist teachings, the mind is likened to a restless monkey, constantly jumping from one thought to another. This monkey mind not only distracts us from the truth, but also prevents us from realizing our full potential. If left unchecked, overthinking can lead to suffering, cloud our judgment, and distance us from the wisdom of the present moment. Before we delve into how Buddhist wisdom can help us overcome overthinking, take a moment to breathe. If you find value in these teachings, consider subscribing to Daily Buddhism Wisdom. Like and share this video to help others free themselves from the prison of overthinking. Buddhism teaches that our mind is naturally inclined to generate thoughts. However, just as clouds pass through the sky without affecting its vastness, thoughts come and go, constantly arising and fading away. The problem arises when we attach ourselves to these thoughts, analyzing them endlessly, replaying past regrets, or worrying about an uncertain future. This process not only consumes our mental energy but also creates unnecessary suffering, preventing us from living fully in the present moment. The Buddha taught that suffering arises from attachment, whether to material things, emotions, or mental constructs. Overthinking is a subtle yet powerful form of attachment, as it keeps us entangled in an illusion of control. We may believe that by thinking more, we can solve all problems, avoid mistakes, or predict every possible outcome. However, in reality, excessive rumination leads to confusion, stress, and even inaction. Instead of finding clarity, we become paralyzed by our own thoughts, unable to take meaningful steps toward our goals or inner peace. To reclaim our potential, we must cultivate the ability to observe our thoughts without clinging to them. Mindfulness meditation, a core Buddhist practice, teaches us to witness our mental activity as if watching leaves floating down a river, acknowledging each thought without grasping at it or pushing it away. By training the mind to stay present, we can break free from the cycle of overanalysis and rediscover a state of natural wisdom and inner balance. One of the core Buddhist teachings is impermanence, anicca, which reminds us that everything in life is in a constant state of change, including our thoughts, emotions, and perceptions. Just as the seasons shift, rivers flow, and clouds drift across the sky, our thoughts arise and dissolve naturally. However, when we overthink, we mistakenly treat our thoughts as if they are solid, unchanging truths, giving them far more importance than they deserve. This illusion of permanence creates unnecessary suffering, as we become trapped in cycles of doubt, fear, and indecision. Overthinking often stems from the belief that if we analyze a situation enough, we can arrive at the perfect answer or prevent all possible mistakes. But in reality, excessive thinking can lead to hesitation, procrastination, and even anxiety. Instead of making clear decisions, we find ourselves paralyzed by endless what-ifs and worst-case scenarios. Buddhism teaches that this attachment to thoughts is a form of clinging, one of the root causes of suffering, dukkha. When we hold on too tightly to our thoughts, replaying past events or obsessing over future possibilities, we disconnect from the present moment, where true peace and wisdom reside. By deeply understanding that thoughts are impermanent, we can begin to cultivate a mindset of detachment. This doesn't mean suppressing or ignoring our thoughts, but rather observing them without identifying with them. Just as we watch waves rise and fall in the ocean without trying to stop them, we can learn to witness our mental activity without being swept away. Through mindfulness practices like meditation, we can train ourselves to step back from our thoughts, seeing them for what they truly are, temporary mental events rather than absolute realities. When we embrace this understanding, we free ourselves from the burden of overthinking and allow clarity, creativity, and inner peace to emerge naturally. Mindfulness, sati, is one of the fundamental pillars of Buddhist practice. It is the art of being fully present in each moment, observing our experiences with openness and without judgment. In our modern world, where distractions are endless and mental chatter is constant, mindfulness serves as an anchor that grounds us in reality. When we fall into the habit of overthinking, our minds either replay past mistakes and regrets or project fearful scenarios into the future. This mental tug-of-war prevents us from engaging with the present, where real life unfolds. The Buddha emphasized that suffering, dukkha, arises from clinging to thoughts and emotions that are, by nature, impermanent. When we obsess over what has already happened or worry about what might happen, we disconnect from the now, the only place where true clarity, peace, and wisdom exist. Imagine someone carrying a heavy bag filled with unnecessary items, struggling under its weight. Overthinking is much like that. It burdens us with unnecessary concerns and doubts, leaving us exhausted and unable to move forward with ease. Buddhist practices such as meditation, mindful breathing, and mindful walking are designed to help us return to the present moment. In meditation, we learn to observe our thoughts as they arise, without getting lost in them. With each breath, we gently bring our focus back to the here and now, training our minds to be less reactive. Mindful breathing, in particular, is a simple yet profound tool. By focusing on each inhale and exhale, we cultivate a sense of calm and stability, preventing our thoughts from spiraling out of control. Through consistent mindfulness practice, we develop awareness of our thought patterns. We begin to recognize when our minds start wandering into overanalysis or self-doubt, and instead of indulging these patterns, we learn to let them go. Rather than allowing overthinking to consume our energy, mindfulness teaches us to redirect our focus toward meaningful and purposeful action. The more we train ourselves to be fully present, the more we gain mastery over our minds, allowing us to make decisions with clarity, engage in life with joy, and embrace each moment with a sense of peace. Buddhism emphasizes the practice of letting go, vairagya, which is essential for inner peace and freedom from suffering. When we overthink, we are often caught in a web of resistance. Resistance to uncertainty, resistance to change, and resistance to things not going exactly as we want them to. We become fixated on finding perfect solutions, replaying past mistakes, or anxiously predicting future outcomes. This craving for control creates tension, stress, and emotional suffering because reality is inherently unpredictable and ever-changing. The Buddha taught that attachment is the root of suffering, dukkha. When we overanalyze situations, we cling to our thoughts as if they are absolute truths. We convince ourselves that if we think long and hard enough, we can control every aspect of our lives. However, reality does not work that way. The nature of existence is impermanence, anicca. Everything changes, and nothing stays the same. Trying to control the uncontrollable only leads to frustration, exhaustion, and missed opportunities for growth. Letting go does not mean giving up or becoming passive. Instead, it means surrendering to the natural flow of life with wisdom and trust. It is about understanding that we cannot predict or dictate every outcome, and that's okay. When we release our tight grip on needing certainty, we create space for new possibilities. A mind that is constantly overthinking is rigid, but a mind that embraces vairagya is open, adaptable, and free. Imagine holding onto a rope with all your strength, believing that if you let go, you will fall. In reality, the moment you release the rope, you free yourself from unnecessary strain. In the same way, when we stop trying to control everything and instead trust the unfolding of life, we make room for creativity, spontaneity, and true wisdom. Some of the most meaningful experiences in life happen when we allow things to unfold naturally, rather than forcing them into a predetermined mold. By practicing mindfulness, meditation, and self-inquiry, we can cultivate the art of letting go. Each time we find ourselves caught in a cycle of overthinking, we can remind ourselves to pause, take a deep breath, and ask, is this thought serving me, or is it keeping me stuck? This simple act of awareness can help us release mental burdens and embrace a more effortless, harmonious way of being. The path to true wisdom is not found in clinging but in surrendering, allowing life to flow as it is meant to. In Buddhism, simplicity is not just a way of life. It is a path to mental clarity and liberation. A cluttered mind, much like a cluttered room, can feel overwhelming and disorganized, making it difficult to see what is truly important. Overthinking arises when our minds become entangled in excessive thoughts, worries, and assumptions, creating mental noise that prevents us from making clear and confident decisions. Imagine walking into a room filled with unnecessary objects, piles of papers, scattered clothes, and unused furniture. Finding what you need becomes a struggle, and the space feels chaotic. Similarly, when our minds are overloaded with excessive thinking, we become lost in a maze of hypothetical scenarios, self-doubt, and fear-based assumptions. This mental clutter drains our energy, paralyzes us with indecision, and distances us from the simplicity and wisdom of the present moment. Buddhism teaches that by simplifying our thoughts, we can cultivate a peaceful and focused mind. This means letting go of unnecessary concerns, avoiding excessive analysis, and directing our mental energy toward what truly matters. The Buddha often emphasized the importance of skillful thinking, thoughts that serve a purpose and lead to wisdom and positive action. When we overthink, we waste valuable time and energy on matters beyond our control, trapping ourselves in an endless loop of mental chatter. One way to cultivate mental simplicity is through mindfulness, sati. By practicing mindful awareness, we can observe our thoughts without becoming entangled in them. Instead of allowing every thought to demand our attention, we learn to recognize which thoughts are useful and which are simply distractions. This practice helps us develop inner stillness, where our minds become like a calm lake, clear, reflective, and undisturbed by unnecessary ripples. Another key Buddhist principle that encourages simplicity is right effort, samavayama, part of the Noble Eightfold Path. Right effort teaches us to let go of unwholesome mental states, including doubt, worry, and restlessness, while cultivating thoughts that bring clarity and peace. It reminds us that mental discipline is not about suppressing thoughts, but about choosing which ones to nurture and which ones to release. By simplifying our minds, we open ourselves to greater wisdom, decisiveness, and inner peace. We learn to approach life with clarity and focus rather than confusion and hesitation. Each moment becomes an opportunity to act with purpose rather than being lost in mental overanalysis. When we clear away the unnecessary, we make space for what truly matters: peace, awareness, and a life guided by wisdom rather than worry. The Buddha taught the middle way as a fundamental principle for living a balanced and fulfilling life. This teaching emphasizes the importance of avoiding extremes, whether it be indulgence in excessive pleasure or rigid self-denial. The same principle applies to our thinking. Overthinking represents an extreme of excessive mental activity, leading to analysis paralysis, while impulsivity is the opposite extreme, where actions are taken without sufficient consideration. Both extremes can hinder our growth and potential. True wisdom lies in finding the balance between thoughtful reflection and decisive action. Overthinking occurs when we allow our minds to spiral endlessly around possibilities, doubts, and fears, preventing us from making clear decisions. This constant mental rumination can lead to anxiety, stress, and inaction. We become so consumed by hypothetical scenarios. What if I fail? What if I make the wrong choice? That we lose sight of the present moment and the opportunities before us. This is why the Buddha emphasized that attachment to thoughts creates suffering. Overthinking is one form of such attachment, where we grip our thoughts so tightly that we become stuck. On the other hand, impulsivity arises when we act without sufficient reflection, making choices based on fleeting emotions or external pressures rather than inner wisdom. While action is necessary, when it is not grounded in awareness, it can lead to regret, mistakes, or harm to ourselves and others. The middle way teaches us that neither extreme is beneficial. Instead, we must cultivate the ability to pause and reflect when necessary, but also recognize when it is time to trust ourselves and take action. Buddhism offers practical tools to help us find this balance. Meditation, for example, trains the mind to observe thoughts without attachment, creating space between impulse and action. Through mindfulness, sati, we develop the awareness to notice when we are overanalyzing a situation and consciously bring our focus back to the present. Likewise, the principle of right view, samadhi, part of the Noble Eightfold Path, encourages us to see reality as it is, rather than getting lost in hypothetical fears or assumptions. Finding the middle way in our thinking means cultivating wise discernment. This involves knowing when a decision requires more careful thought and when hesitation is merely a result of fear or self-doubt. It also means trusting our intuition, our inner wisdom that arises from a calm and centered mind. When we are deeply in tune with ourselves, we can make choices with confidence rather than overanalyzing every possible outcome. The Buddha's teachings remind us that life is impermanent, and no decision is ever truly final. If we make a mistake, we can learn from it and adjust our course. Instead of fearing imperfection, we should embrace action as a means of growth. By walking the middle way, we free ourselves from the paralysis of overthinking while ensuring that our actions remain thoughtful and aligned with our higher purpose. Overthinking often stems from self-doubt and a deep-seated fear of making mistakes. This mental loop can lead to paralysis, preventing us from taking action or making decisions with clarity. Buddhism emphasizes the practice of self-compassion, metta, which involves extending kindness, patience, and understanding toward ourselves, just as we would toward a close friend. By embracing metta, we learn to accept our imperfections and recognize that mistakes are not failures but essential stepping stones to growth and wisdom. When we cultivate a mindset of self-compassion, we weaken the grip of self-criticism and reduce the anxiety associated with decision-making. Instead of dwelling on the fear of failure, we begin to trust our ability to learn and adapt. A mind that is gentle and forgiving toward itself becomes more resilient, fostering the courage to move forward despite uncertainty. This shift in perspective not only alleviates overthinking but also encourages a balanced approach to life, where challenges are seen as opportunities rather than threats. Wisdom without action is like a lamp without oil. It holds the potential to illuminate but remains useless without fuel. Similarly, knowledge and insight lose their value if they are not applied in real life. Overthinking often traps us in a cycle of endless preparation, where we accumulate information, analyze possibilities, and anticipate every outcome, yet never take the first step toward meaningful progress. Buddhism teaches the principle of right action, samma kammanta, as part of the Noble Eightfold Path. This concept emphasizes mindful, ethical, and purposeful action as a necessary step toward personal growth and enlightenment. While careful thought is important, it must be balanced with decisive action. Overanalyzing every situation can lead to stagnation, fear, and self-doubt, preventing us from making progress in our lives. The key is to shift from excessive thinking to small, conscious steps that align with our values and goals. Taking action does not require absolute certainty. Rather, it involves trusting the process, embracing uncertainty, and allowing experience to be our teacher. Each step forward provides feedback, helping us learn, adapt, and refine our path. Through this practice, we cultivate confidence and resilience, breaking free from the mental paralysis of overthinking. By integrating wisdom with action, we transform our knowledge into something tangible and impactful. Progress is made not by waiting for the perfect moment, but by taking meaningful steps, however small, toward our aspirations. Silence and stillness are powerful tools in Buddhist practice, offering a refuge from the constant chatter of the mind. In today's fast-paced world, where distractions are endless and the pressure to find immediate answers is high, overthinking becomes a common struggle. Our minds race, analyzing every detail, replaying past mistakes, and worrying about the future. This mental noise can cloud our judgment and disconnect us from our inner wisdom. Buddhism teaches that true clarity arises not from forceful thinking, but from deep presence and inner stillness. When we sit in stillness and embrace silence, we create space for insight to emerge naturally. Instead of trying to control or force our way to a solution, we practice letting go and allowing thoughts to settle like ripples on a pond. In this state of calm, our deeper intuition, the wisdom beyond logic, becomes more accessible. This is why meditation is central to Buddhist practice. By focusing on the breath or simply observing thoughts without attachment, we cultivate mental spaciousness. Over time, this practice helps us recognize that not every thought requires engagement. Many of our worries and overanalyzed scenarios are just passing mental clouds that hold no real weight. In moments of overthinking, rather than struggling to think harder, we can pause, breathe, and embrace the stillness. The mind, when given the chance to rest, often finds its own way to clarity. In this silence, answers may arise effortlessly, not from anxiety, but from a place of deep knowing. Like any habit, overthinking is deeply ingrained through repetition, but it can be transformed through consistent practice and conscious effort. Just as a muscle strengthens with regular exercise, training the mind to break free from overanalysis requires intentional and sustained practice. Buddhism offers a path to this transformation through daily meditation, mindfulness, and the application of wisdom in everyday life. Meditation helps cultivate awareness, allowing us to observe our thoughts without becoming entangled in them. When we sit in meditation, we learn to notice the patterns of overthinking, how one thought leads to another, creating an endless loop of analysis and doubt. Over time, with regular practice, we develop the ability to step back from these thought spirals, choosing to let them pass rather than feeding them with more energy. Mindfulness, on the other hand, teaches us to be present in each moment rather than lost in speculation about the past or future. By bringing our attention to simple everyday activities, breathing, walking, eating, or even washing dishes, we train ourselves to engage fully in the present rather than drifting into unnecessary mental narratives. The more we practice mindfulness, the easier it becomes to recognize when overthinking arises and gently redirect our focus to the here and now. Beyond meditation and mindfulness, actively applying Buddhist wisdom to daily life is essential. Teachings such as impermanence, anicca, remind us that all thoughts and worries are temporary. Non-attachment, upadana, encourages us to let go of obsessive thinking. And right action, samakamanta, guides us toward making decisions without fear of imperfection. Every moment offers an opportunity to choose presence over worry, clarity over confusion, and action over hesitation. Rather than allowing overthinking to dictate our actions, we can train ourselves to pause, breathe, and move forward with awareness and confidence. Transformation is not instant, but with patience and dedication, the mind becomes more peaceful, focused, and free from the weight of excessive thought. Overthinking is a thief of potential, robbing us of energy, creativity, and the ability to take meaningful action. When we are trapped in endless loops of analysis, doubt, and fear, we lose precious moments of our lives to indecision and mental exhaustion. However, through Buddhist wisdom and mindful practice, we can break free from this cycle and reclaim our clarity, confidence, and inner peace. By practicing mindfulness, we train ourselves to return to the present moment, reducing the power of intrusive thoughts and unnecessary worries. When we learn to embrace impermanence, we recognize that all thoughts, emotions, and uncertainties are temporary, allowing us to let go of attachments that fuel overthinking. Simplifying the mind, releasing mental clutter and unnecessary self-criticism, creates space for clarity, purpose, and ease. Walking this path is not about achieving perfection. It's about cultivating awareness and making small, conscious choices each day. Over time, with practice, the mind becomes lighter, more resilient, and capable of approaching life with greater freedom. If you found these teachings valuable, help spread this message by liking, sharing, and subscribing to Daily Buddhism Wisdom. Together, we can support each other in living with more awareness, peace, and intentional action. Let's take this journey side by side and free ourselves from the chains of overthinking. May you find peace, clarity, and the courage to act. Thank you for being part of this journey.